Thank you very much. I was afraid you wouldn't be able to read my handwriting. There's a wonderful introduction. And I'm pleased to know that some of you recognize me. A man in the lobby said, "Hey, Merv." I'm a very lucky person in that this movie, which took almost 5 years to put together, has has allowed me to spend many evenings with people like you in groups like this, people who keep on keeping on. You know, anybody can get out there for a weekend and wave your arms and march. But I'm so impressed with the people whose commitment to progressive values stays firm and warm and energetic at a time when many of those who are involved, I have spoken to a lot of empty seats. And I am very pleased to see this assembly of people of conscience tonight. And it's a joy for me to be here. Obviously, when you make a movie, you want people to see it. I want to give you just a few notes before we begin the film. I met Thomas Young in January of '05. I went to Washington to see Ralph Nader, who, by the way, appeared on my show more than any other single person throughout the 29 years we were on the air. I just worshipped Ralph. I couldn't believe him, what he knew, how he handled the press conferences, his commitment. And when I heard that the largest corporation in the world, General Motors, had women try to trap him. So they did. They sent young women, would you come back to our apartment and help with our graves? I just thought it was the damnedest thing I ever heard. And then when I read Unsafe, and Ralph and I go back to 1966. And then, of course, we became sort of attached at the hip after all those times he was on my show. And he drew an audience for me. I wasn't doing favors for Ralph. Ralph gave us great ratings. The women who watched the show just loved him. And so I was on his bus in 2000. I mean, I was just thrilled. I'd never been in a campaign before. I couldn't because I was on the air and you had to walk down the center of the river. And I got off the bus in '04 to save my marriage. Marla was just terrified that we were going to elect Bush again. And, you know, I gave her all the arguments. I'm still not altogether comfortable. I mean, Ralph can't run, really? But, you know, I mean, what does he have to do? He goes to the Democrats and says, "Is your candidate strong enough this time? Can I run?" And I thought it was un-American, really, the way they treated Ralph. But anyway, I did get off, and I went in January of '05 to talk to him. So if anybody needed a hug, it would be Ralph. And while we're talking, he said, "A mother at Walter Reed wants to see me. Do you want to go?" And I said, "Yeah, I do. I've never been to Walter Reed." And I walked into the hospital room, and here was this young man lying there, white as a sheet. His cheekbones were sticking out. His cheeks were sunken. And his mother, he was whacked out on morphine, and his mother, as we stood next to the bed, his mother explained his injury to me. "Thomas is a T4. The bullet entered his shoulder blade and exited T4 on the spine, which is between the shoulder blades. So he is paralyzed from the nipples down." What you'll see here is a drama that is taking place in thousands of homes in this country, occupied by young men and women who have come home from this massive blunder in both Afghanistan and Iraq. And these injuries turned the whole family upside down. And we aren't seeing this sacrifice. And as I looked at him, and I couldn't, I mean, the first thing to think is, why not me? And I said, people should see this. This is the most sanitized war of my lifetime. The president said, you can't take pictures of the coffins, and the whole press corps said, okay. By the way, every major metropolitan newspaper in this country supported the invasion of Iraq. So much for free press and, you know, people getting in there and pushing back on those who would make decisions for us behind closed doors. And I said, people should see this, and I nominated myself. I found a filmmaker in Texas. I called her, female voice answered, cold. I said, hi, I'm Phil Donahue, and she said, no, you're not. And I thought, well, thank God she recognizes me. Her name is Ellen Spiro, and she agreed to meet me at the Kansas City airport. This is after Thomas had been released from the hospital. And we go to meet Thomas. I had no idea what his politics were. I didn't care. I was just going to show. And I was sitting in his living room, and I noticed his bumper stickers on the coffee table. One of them said, "Draft Republicans." And I thought, well, now we had an anti-war warrior here. I mean, regardless of his politics, I was going to make this film. And I said, Thomas, I want to show what harm in harm's way really means. This is a euphemism. What does it mean? And I want to show it up close, but I can't do it without your permission. He said, you have my permission. I said, I want this film to make a statement. I want this film to be a political film. He said, I do too. So what we did was, and Ellen turned out to be just fabulous, as you'll see. We've woven the Iraq War debate in both houses of Congress through October 2002, throughout the film, throughout Thomas's story. What you will see is the most shallow debate, I think, in the history of Congress. These senators and House members were called to the White House and welcomed by the White House Iraq group, headed by Karl Rove, who wrote, he and the others wrote the talking points for the senators and the congressmen. And like obedient soldiers, they went to the floor of both chambers and read them. A smoking gun will become, it's unbelievable. These were written by the White House. And George Bush executed the politics of fear brilliantly. 3 weeks before an election. And as you'll see here, only 23 senators voted no. This is a shock to me. And then you'll also see Thomas's story as it makes its way. I'm going to say also, James, that after the film, if he's well enough, we will meet Thomas live on the screen via Skype. And you will see there's a significant difference between Thomas in the film and Thomas afterward. So I invite you now to watch Body of War.